In today's video, I would like to talk about screens, mindless scrolling, and how it affects my children and our family life. Hi there. I've been alive for the past 46 years. So in my youth, we didn't have cell phones. We barely had a VCR that we plugged in a video cassette and we could watch, the cartoons that were not available in the TV. And we played outside a lot. So my childhood was completely different from the childhood that my kids have today. Yesterday, I was walking around during my lunch break around the city that I work in, and it was funny because as I was walking, there was a phone ringing somewhere. And I was walking past this very, very old couple. The woman was with a stroller, I think you can say it. You know, she was helping herself stand upright. And her husband was also hunchback, you know, very, very old. You can see it in their appearance and how they were dressed. But the woman just stopped immediately and reached inside of her stroller and was rummaging around it, you know, turning over the book that she had and the wallet and everything. And then she just, you know, closed it up and she looked at her husband and she said, "It's not mine. I thought that my phone was ringing." And I find it so funny because if in my age, when I was a kid, we didn't have, cell phones. In her age, she probably didn't even have phones. So it struck me that even in the age of 80 and 90, that probably that old couple was, the technology that exists today is still so addictive. A couple of days ago, my kids are now are not in school because there are summer holidays. But I still, give them a little exercises, not to forget what they were learning in school this past year, so they can have, a background, so they can build on top of their knowledge. So they are still doing the language, the Slovenian language, the English language, and they are still doing math. And since we spent all of the previous weekend on the phones because it was raining outside, we said, okay, this week no phones, no screens. When your dad and me are at work, you should just focus, on playing and on doing the exercises that we gave you. And they say, sure, okay. But when we came home at night, when I was checking what they did, and my eldest was complaining because he had screens then, my eldest was complaining that he cannot find his password for the video game that he was playing. My husband, he's doing, his work is in the computer business. He said, okay, I'll check. And when he went into his room, there was quiet for about 5 minutes, and then there was yelling, "Come and see!" And he was scrolling his YouTube history. And from 8 in the morning and until 3:30 in the afternoon, the oldest was at a computer watching at shorts, watching at videos, stupid videos, like 11 a year should do. And my husband was really angry. I wasn't surprised, but I didn't say anything, especially because the oldest said that he didn't do it. And I hate when they lie to me. And then when we asked the little one what they did all day, the little one is 8 years old, and I said, from today on, no lying. He said, yeah, we were on the screens all day. because it was funny. When we came home, they were still doing their homework. So we gave them an ultimatum: no screens for the week. They should do their homework, and they should play outside, and they should play with a dog, and they should do anything just to, keep their minds occupied. And it lasted for about 2 days, and then there were screens again when we were at work. So you can see how addictive this technology is for the oldest and for the little ones. And what I was thinking about that night when I went to bed, it was that when we are talking with each child, each parent sits in the bed of each child, and they tell each other what the mark or the score of the day was from 1 to 10, and what their favorite thing was. They never, ever say that their favorite thing was that they could be on the TV or on the screens or the tablet or the phone. It's always like, it was my favorite day of time of the day was when we were playing, I don't know, Monopoly, or the favorite time was when we went on a walk and we saw this and that, or my favorite time was when me and my dad were mowing the grass and we were talking about the latest book that he read. It was never about the screens. It was always about the time that we spent together and the quality time that we spent together. So it struck me, it was so sad, because we as people are the only life form that has imagination, that has the possibility to create things, to express ourselves. And we don't do it because the modern age made us into this mindless scrolling zombies. And we became consumers instead of creators. And so the next day when we had this, when they were not on the screens all day, we had a talk again. And I gave them a test at night. And I said, tomorrow when you wake up, think about your brain, because your brain is a muscle, and the more that you exercise it, the bigger it gets and the faster it gets. So you have a task. See how many things you can do, how many things you can create. It doesn't matter if you color a drawing. It doesn't matter if you, go outside and look for the, it's not a daisy. It's, leprechauns have it and Irish have it. It's, I don't know. I will write it outside when I see it. But it has 4 leaves instead of 3. And why don't you go look for them? And then when you come home, or when you come inside and you sit behind your desk to do your math or to do your Slovenian tasks, then just write down how many hours or minutes you spent creating something. And that night when I came to his room, this was the eldest, and we spoke about that. He said, "Oh, mommy, I did this and I did this," and he was so proud, showing me the diary that he kept. And he was, his eyes were glowing when he was explaining how he and his brother went outside and looked for crickets. I mean, this was the type of play that I did as a child, and my husband did as a child, like 40 years ago, and their eyes were glowing. So I said, okay, this is something that I have to stick with. This is something that I have to, we as parents in this age, we have a lot more on our plate that my parents had when I was a child. Why? Because they just sent me outside and I could play, and I came back, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours later, and I just said, what's for dinner? Because all of my homework was done and I couldn't sit behind the screen because there was no screen. So we played, we communicated with with different children, we get to know each other. I even had a pen pal from, I don't know, 3 or 4,000 kilometers away in Sweden. And I was learning the English language, and she was also learning the English language. I mean, admittedly, we were a couple of years older than my oldest is, but that's it. We were using our imagination to, not to be bored. But today's kids, when they're bored, they just go and sit at a screen and they scroll mindlessly, and their brain starts to get slower and slower. And this is not something that I want for my children. So I think that's it, because there was enough rambling for today. But I would just like to tell you that if you see the same problems that I do in your children or even in yourself, think about it. Give yourself this little exercise, how many times in one day how many hours in one day you spend as a consumer, and how many hours as a creator. It could even be, writing in your journal. You are creating something, you are filling the blank pages of a book or of a notebook. So it can be anything. It can be cooking your lunch. It could be going on a stroll and, noticing the things around you. Anything but being on a screen or having been plugged into your phone with your earbuds and listening to even a good podcast. You are being a consumer. Start thinking as a creator. And on that subject, if you would like to see how I unplug after the stressful weeks or even months at work, I've made a video on how I use one day per 2 or 3 months that I take just for myself. I don't tell anybody where I'm going except for my husband. He always knows. And I drive around Slovenia, even if it's for 1 hour or 2 hours, and I reach a spot and I just sit and write in my diary and unplug from the technology. So if you would like to know more how I do that, you can watch the next video that's suggested up here. But otherwise, thank you for your time, thank you for your patience, and think about the exercise. I think you will find it illuminating. Thanks for your time. Bye.